welcome to the Rose System. My name is Nova and I am the host of our DID system. For those of you who this might be your first video or you may not have heard of DID before. DID stands for Dissociative Identity Disorder. It is a mental health disorder in which someone has two or more separate identities within the body. This disorder is very closely linked with chronic and extreme childhood trauma, particularly within the formative years, and there is still a lot that is unknown about this disorder. What we want to talk about today is masking and situations that we have come across within our own system. And this kind of stems from a therapy session that we had in this past week. I was in therapy and I was talking to my therapist about the discovery of a new alter and what this meant for our system. This resulted in that alter fronting and talking with the therapist herself. And in the process of trying to get me back in the front to finish the session, another alter stepped in. And this alter was masking as me to an incredible degree that no one realized that she wasn't me until she referred to me in the third person. And this opened up a new situation that I had not been aware of. It has become something quite interesting about us as a system, and we've been talking about it with friends who know us particularly well, friends who know that we are a system and that we are very close to. And it turns out that what we are experiencing, I'm not entirely sure what the correct term is, but we are referring to this particular situation as doppelgangers within our system. So me as the host Nova, there are 5 alters within our system who are my doppelgangers and who manage different aspects of the host duties, specifically surrounding certain types of stress and certain types of trauma. So we have 5 alters who are almost indistinguishable from me as a host. And these alters will front or co-front in times of stress or in certain trauma situations to keep the narrative that I, the host, am fronting. One of these alters doesn't front herself. She is specifically designated to holding the emotions from this stressful situation. So she is near the front in the experiences, doesn't have the specific visual memories, but has the emotions of the situation. The other 4 alters, one is designated to maintaining a very calm exterior. Her emotions are a lot more muted, and so she fronts in situations where we need to present as having a level head. She apparently, from what I've spoken to her about, she frequently joins me at work and co-fronts with me at work, help me maintain a level emotional state so that emotions are not getting in the way of our work. I have not officially met anyone but the level-headed doppelganger. And I am curious as to the others, but they have chosen for now to remain out of my awareness. But in talking with our friend knows us incredibly well and is able to interact with us. They are very clued into when we switch. They frequently catch switches that I am not aware of. They're very good at just from interacting with us, knowing which alters are around. And we were talking to them, and I was talking about the fact that I had just discovered that I had doppelgangers. And they went, yeah, you do realize you switch very regularly. And yeah, you switch very regularly, and most people would not, clock the fact that you've switched. Most people wouldn't even recognize the differences in the switches, but there are 5 of you who present very similarly, but all have slightly different mannerisms, slightly different vocal inflections. We thought you were aware of this. And I was like, no, I had no clue. And they were like, oh, okay. And then over the course of that conversation, one of my doppelgangers came alongside me and she goes, there you go. You've just had someone join you in the front. Can you notice this particular behavior thing that you're doing? And I'm like, oh, I thought that was just an aspect of who I was. And it turns out that depending on who joins me in the front in terms of my doppelgangers has slight changes to behavioral things that I was not aware of. So one of my doppelgangers has a much stronger British accent than what I do, and I'm noticing that that accent is kind of starting to show through. But it is interesting. We have one of my other doppelgangers has a lot better control over my eyebrows. And so when that doppelganger is quite close or is fronting alongside me, our eyebrows have this certain movement that I can't do when I am in the front by myself. And I have been trying to get my eyebrows to do that, but when she steps in alongside me, the eyebrows naturally do it. And I've always been curious as to why sometimes that happens and sometimes it doesn't. And now I have a little bit of an understanding why. Now, we want to talk about why this doppelganger situation occurs. I cannot give you every example of why it occurs, but I can tell you why it has occurred within our system. So the doppelgangers in our system formed during our university years. At that point in time, we were friends with someone who was not healthy for us to be friends with. And this person knew we had DID and used the fact that we had DID to do a lot of damage. And one of the things this person would do was verbally would sit me down and just attack me verbally. And if anyone else switched in to try and manage the conversation, this person would stop and wait until I was back in the front before continuing the verbal attack. And so these doppelgangers formed so that I was not alone in the attack, or that they could take the attack on themselves, so that the things that I was experiencing that was being deliberately targeted at me, like me as my very specific identity rather than the system as a whole. The attacks that were targeted specifically at me were kept to alters who were identical to me in nature. And so what I've been told is that we had an alter who dealt with a lot of the verbal side of things, but we also had alters who would deal with the physical side of things. And depending on the mood of the person who was harming us, depended upon which doppelganger would step in to help manage that situation. And so it's really interesting in that we had someone who targeted us because we were a system and would target specific alters in different ways. And so to protect us from that situation, doppelgangers were formed so that the attacks were not landing on me on my own, that the load of the attacks were shared amongst people who present as me. As far as I'm aware, none of our other alters have specific doppelgangers themselves. But the other alters within our system who were targeted weren't fronting as much as I was, because I'm the host. And so it is interesting to see how our system survived that situation. And so we want to know, do you have doppelgangers within your system? Do you have people and alters in your system who are so closely like you that at times you don't even realize that they are with you, because they just kind of feel and look and act like you do? And I'm not talking about a deliberate mask, but someone whose mask is so integral into their identity that they cannot be separated from it. Because we were talking about this with our therapist, and our therapist hadn't come across this before, even though our therapist specializes in DID and OSDD. So let me know, do you have doppelgangers within your system? And if you do, is there a reason why? If there is a reason why and you don't want to share it, by all means don't share it. But we are genuinely curious as to whether other systems experience this as well. Please know you are loved by the incredible God of the universe, and we will see you in the next video. Bye!